Ava, I whispered, I'm sorry. I'm coming to be with you. I lifted the glass of water and swallowed the entire handful of sleeping pills. In the next life, I'll do anything to repay what I owe you. Then I closed my eyes. My last memory was the half-full glass and the open bottle of Ambien on the nightstand. When I regained consciousness, I was in a place both familiar and foreign. Familiar because I'd lived here for my first memory until I was 21. Foreign because I hadn't set foot in this house for nearly 20 years. What was happening? My brain was still rebooting. I was supposed to be dead. How could I be awake? And why was I back at the Thorne estate? My name is Ethan Thorne, and I am, or was, the adopted son of the Thorne family. When I was 17, the family's biological son, their true heir, was brought home. Out of what I thought was affection, my adoptive parents let me keep the Thorne name and my status, but I was now officially the adopted son. Then, just before my senior year of college, my adoptive father, Arthur, handed the company over to me. I was overwhelmed, deeply moved, but I felt I couldn't accept such a monumental gift. He insisted, and I finally relented. What I didn't realize was that I had been chosen as the perfect sacrifice. The company was drowning in debt and riddled with shady subsidiaries engaged in illegal activities. 3 months after graduation, I was arrested. The fall guy. They sentenced me to 10 years. I fought it, of course. I'd barely been in charge, but the Thorne family had already laundered their reputation and vanished, leaving me to take the heat. 8 years later, at 30, I was released early for good behavior. Stepping out of the prison gates, I had nowhere to go. That's when an Ethel red Umbra, a car that looked like it was carved from shadow, pulled up in front of me. A woman of breathtaking beauty stepped out. I recognized her instantly, Ava Sinclair. She was 2 years behind me in college, the undisputed queen of campus. She pursued me back then. I told myself that once I got the company on solid ground after graduation, I'd ask her out. Then my life imploded. We just stood there for a long moment, staring at each other, the unspoken years a chasm between us. Tears streamed down our faces. Ethan, she finally said, her voice trembling slightly, come home with me. It felt unreal, even as she pulled me into the passenger seat. Ava Sinclair had waited for me for 8 years. In that time, her own company had grown into an empire of staggering value, yet she'd waited. We were married the following year, but we never had children. Ava told me the years she'd spent building her empire had taken a toll on her health, making it difficult to conceive. I held her and told her it didn't matter, that just being with this woman who loved me so fiercely was more than I deserved. But Ava was obsessed with clearing my name. I told her I'd made my peace with it, that it was in the past, but she wouldn't let it go. It became the one source of friction between us. It was the 7th year of our marriage on her birthday. She had a business trip that evening. I wanted to spend the day celebrating with her, but we got into a massive fight about my case again. The look in her eyes was one of deep disappointment. Still, her voice was gentle when she finally spoke. Ethan, I'm leaving now. Maybe we both just need some time to cool off. And with that, she walked out of our home. The setting sun cast a final, golden light over her, and for some reason, a cold dread washed over me. At 6:30, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello, am I speaking with Mr. Ethan Thorne? Yes. Who is this? Mr. Thorne, this is Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Your wife, Ms. Ava Sinclair, was in a severe car accident on the interstate at 6 p.m. this evening. I'm so sorry to tell you this, but Ms. Sinclair did not survive. We need you to come to the hospital to identify her. My world went white. I don't remember how I got to the hospital, only the moment I saw her, cold and still on a gurney. They had tried to fix her up, but her body was rigid, the vibrant spark that was her gone forever. My whole body trembled uncontrollably. A doctor handed me our wedding ring. Mr. Thorne, she was holding this so tightly. I assume it's yours. I took the ring, silent, my eyes locked on Ava's body. An hour ago, we were arguing. Maybe we both just need some time to cool off. It was the last thing she ever said to me. The other driver was at fault 100%, the doctor continued, handing me a clipboard. You'll be able to press charges. Sir, we just need you to sign Ms. Sinclair's death certificate. I stare at the paper. Name, Ava Sinclair. Sex, female. Age, 36. Cause of death, massive cranial trauma, and catastrophic internal bleeding from high-impact collision. A hot, metallic taste filled my mouth. I coughed, and a spray of blood hit the sterile floor before everything went dark. I woke up in a hospital bed. My hair, when I touched it, felt brittle. I looked in the mirror and saw it was shot through with silver. The old saying was true. Ava's lawyer brought me her will. She'd written it right after we got married. I was her only family, her sole heir. But what was the point of it all now? Before I was discharged, a doctor handed me the full autopsy report. It confirmed the cause of death, but there was a note at the bottom. Subject was approximately 8 weeks pregnant at the time of death. The words erased what was left of my mind. A week later, after the funeral, I returned to our empty house. The roses Ava had bought were still vibrant on the counter, as if she might walk through the door at any moment. Something clicked in my head. Her father had died in a plane crash when she was 24. She had inherited a fortune. Why would she have worked herself so hard that it destroyed her health? I found her journals. I read through them, from when she was 20 until she was 28. And then I knew. She had been secretly searching for evidence to exonerate me. When she was 25, on the road chasing a lead, she'd been in another car accident. A bad one. It had severely damaged her uterus. The doctors told her she would likely never be able to conceive. All my strength, my will to live, evaporated. I went to the bathroom, found the pills, and ended it. #### part 3. As the memories faded, I looked at the calendar on my phone. It was the week before my 21st birthday, exactly 1 week before Arthur Thorne planned to offer me the company. If God, or fate, or whatever this was had given me a second chance, I would not waste it. I would protect the people who needed protecting. But now, there was only one person on that list. Ava, the woman I had wronged so deeply. The woman who had loved me beyond reason. This time, everything would be different. There would be no tragedy. Over the next week, I made frequent trips to my adoptive father's study. As the eldest son, my presence there wasn't unusual. The housekeeper never stopped me. When Arthur wasn't there, I'd pretend to look for a book, and while I was alone, I copied all of the Thorne Corporation's files, every last dirty secret, onto several encrypted hard drives. This was the ammunition I would need to bring them down. A week later, right on schedule, the housekeeper knocked on my door. "Mr. Ethan, your father would like to see you in his study." I knew exactly what the old bastard wanted, but I followed her calmly. It played out just like before. Arthur praised me, told me he was ready to retire, and said that all corporate decisions would be mine alone. He assured me that neither he nor Caleb, his biological son, would interfere. Then he pushed the transfer agreement across the desk. I had to suppress a bitter laugh. If I fell for this again, I didn't deserve a second chance. "Dad," I said, choosing my words carefully, "I don't think my skills are up to the task of running a company this size. I really think you should give it to Caleb. For one, he's your son, and it's his birthright. And second, he's always been smarter than me. The company would be in better hands with him." I wasn't ready to show my cards yet, so I played the humble, deferential son. To the outside world, I was just the charming, not too bright elder son of the Thorne family. Always careful not to outshine the true heir, Caleb. My refusal was flawless. It completely blindsided Arthur. He hadn't even prepared a counter-argument. "Ethan, I've always thought of you as my own son," he said after a moment, regrouping. "Caleb may be my blood, but he's only been with us for 4 years. I don't know him the way I know you. I trust you, son." "I really have no interest in the business, Dad," I insisted. "I have no plans to inherit any part of the Thorne fortune. Please understand." "Ethan, I'm getting old," he sighed, his face a mask of sincerity. "I don't have the energy I used to. Your mother agrees it's time to choose a successor. I agonized over this, you or Caleb." He looked me right in the eye. "In the end, I chose you. Please, son, don't refuse my goodwill." The old fox. One actor. ### part 4. For the next hour, no matter what tactic Arthur used, I dodged and weaved, offering a dozen reasons why I couldn't accept. Finally, his patience snapped. "Ethan Thorne, if you don't accept this, then you can walk out that door and never come back. This family will consider you a stranger." I watched him, the mask finally slipping. "Father." I knelt before him and bowed my head 3 times. "I'm sorry to be such a disappointment, but I cannot accept your offer. Those three bows, combined with the hell I'd endured in my first life, were payment in full for the 2 decades of their so-called parenting. Then get out of my house today, he spat, certain that the threat of losing everything would make me crawl back. I said nothing. I just walked out of the study. Back in my room, I packed quickly. I only took a few changes of clothes, my laptop, my ID, and the 9 hard drives containing the evidence of the Thorne family's crimes. It had taken 3 16-terabyte drives just for the main evidence. The other 6 held the company's core operational data. On my way out, I stopped by the study. Arthur, of course, refused to see me. I knocked on the closed door. Dad, I'm going back to campus for a bit to clear my head. I'll give you an answer after I've had some time to think. It was a lie to lower his suspicions, to make him think I was just having a tantrum. He didn't stop me. He probably figured that as soon as he cut off my credit cards, I'd come running back with my tail between my legs. I walked out of the Thorne estate and onto the street. The world felt vast and empty. I felt a pang of uncertainty. Where could I even go? The university dorms were closed for renovations. On a strange impulse, a ghost of a memory, I pulled out my phone and called Ava Sinclair. In this timeline, we hadn't even started dating. I was just some guy she had a crush on. Why had she waited 8 years for me? Hello, Ethan. Her voice was like music, clear and sweet. Hey, Ava. I just got kicked out of my house. Could you come get me? The words were out before I could stop them. I was shocked at myself. It seemed my subconscious already considered her the one person I could trust completely. And she was... But was it too soon? Was I being too forward? The line went silent. I was about to apologize and hang up when her voice came back, sharp and clear. Where are you? Send me your location. Stunned, I sent her a pin through iMessage. 20 minutes later, a silver Ethelred Argent pulled up to the curb. Ava jumped out, her face etched with worry. She was in a hurry. She was wearing a pale pink pajama set and slippers, and her hair was still damp. #### part 5. Seeing her there, alive and real, the dam broke. Tears streamed down my face. This life, I would protect this woman who loved me so completely. Ethan, what's wrong? She asked, rushing to my side, her expression full of concern. Ava, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I won't be that stupid jerk anymore. I choked out, pulling her into a hug, burying my face in her soft hair. I'll protect you from now on. I won't let anyone hurt you ever again. Where I couldn't see, a flicker of a knowing, profound expression crossed Ava's face before vanishing. She didn't push me away. Instead, her arms came up to wrap around me. Okay, she said, her voice still impossibly gentle. I believe you. In my elation, I didn't stop to think about how strange my words must have sounded. In this timeline, the only thing I'd done was turn her down once when she'd asked me out. Why would she respond like that? Just like in my previous life, when she picked me up from prison, we got in a car together. Ava loved Ethelred cars. Her family's company, Sinclair Motors, produced them. In my past life, by the time I was released, Ethelred was the biggest auto manufacturer in the world, thanks in no small part to her genius. Ava, I can't believe you came. I told you I loved you, didn't I? And last time you just said you needed some time, she said, her eyes on the road. So, have you thought it through? Want to give us a try? Yes, I answered without a second of hesitation. She laughed, a light, happy sound. Good. Then we're making it Instagram official tonight. What? So soon? I was startled. Of course. We stopped at a red light, and she turned to me, a playful smile on her face. Everyone knows you've been hiding your talents, so you don't outshine your brother. But anyone who really knows you can see how brilliant you are. If I don't lock you down now, what am I going to do about all the other girls who see it too? Okay, I said, and leaned over to give her a soft kiss. A blush crept up her neck, but she didn't pull away. Soon, we pulled up outside a simple apartment building, what looked like an old youth hostel converted into studios. I remembered then that Ava had always kept a low profile in college. Before my sister Chloe poisoned her, no one knew she was wealthy. She was just the brilliant, slightly aloof beauty who was always in the library. Yet here she was, driving an Ethelred Argent. She explained that she wasn't poor, just private, and that the car was an 18th birthday present from her father. I knew that was only half the story. Her family owned Sinclair Motors, a corporate titan. But the car part was true. An Argent was a $100,000 car, expensive for a normal person, but pocket change for a family like hers. The Ethelred Umbra she'd driven in my past life, however, was a priceless, custom-built machine. Suddenly, a thought struck me. The Umbra would have had state-of-the-art safety features. How could a simple car crash have killed her? In my past life, I was too consumed by grief to question it. I just assumed it was a tragic accident. Whatever happened then, it didn't matter. This time, I would keep Ava safe. "Come on," she said, locking the car and taking my hand, leading me inside. Her studio was small, maybe 200 square feet. It held a double bed, a desk, a bookshelf, and a washing machine. It was simple, but it was filled with her scent, a subtle mix of roses. Hashtag part 6 that night. Ava made us Instagram official. The picture was of the two of us on her bed, wrapped in each other's arms. Arthur called me immediately, screaming, demanding I break up with her. I pretended to be a love-struck idiot and refused. I knew he was aware of who Ava was. He didn't want the heiress of Sinclair Motors complicating his plans. I tucked the 9 hard drives into one of Ava's desk drawers. She didn't ask what they were. She probably assumed they were empty drives I'd bought. And so, Ava and I began our co-op life. It felt completely natural. Every day, I cooked for her, trying out different recipes. "How do you know I like all these foods?" she asked once. "I've liked you for a long time, too," I lied. I was just too shy to say yes before. The truth was, I'd spent years in my past life learning her tastes. My job had been less demanding than hers, so I took care of her. My cooking was terrible at first, but she always encouraged me. I couldn't resist asking her, "When did you first start liking me?" Her answer surprised me. "My freshman year of high school. You were giving a speech as a student leader. You were so confident, so handsome. It was love at first sight. But we were in high school, so I never said anything. I found out what college you were going to and applied to the same one, just so I could see you again." As the first day of a new semester approached, I remembered a crucial event. Ava's roommate, my so-called sister Chloe, was going to poison her. It was that incident that landed Ava in the hospital for a week and exposed her identity as the Sinclair heiress. I had to warn her. "Ava, be careful around my sister. She's not a good person. Especially don't eat anything she gives you." The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Chloe was still technically my sister. Saying something like that might make Ava think less of me. Sure enough, the warm smile vanished from Ava's face. Her beautiful eyes turned cold as ice for a split second before returning to normal. "Okay," she said. "I'll be careful." Her reaction was strange, but I pushed the thought aside. On the first day of school, Ava drove the Argent to campus. Normally, she took the bus to maintain her low profile. But no one was surprised. After our Instagram announcement, everyone assumed I'd bought the car for her. The campus gossip page was already buzzing. Ethan Thorne must have bought Ava Sinclair the Ethelred Argent to win her over. I didn't correct them. If it helped protect her identity, I'd play the part. Arthur hadn't given up on me. He called to apologize and wired $200,000 to my account. He knew my expensive habits and probably thought I'd burned through it in a semester. He was still trying to lure me back into his trap. I knew the Thorne Corporation had 14 months until it imploded. Arthur would keep pushing. "Ava, this is for my dad for my living expenses this semester," I said, handing her the debit card. $200 grand. Spend it however you want. You? She looked at me, shocked. "Ava," I said, pulling her into my arms, "we're together now. I'm in this for the long haul, marriage and everything. What's mine is yours. It's only right that you handle the money." "Ethan, thank you," she whispered, burying her head in my chest. A picture of us embracing found its way to the Northwood Confessions page with the caption, "It's real. Finance heartthrob Ethan Thorne and automotive engineering's star Ava Sinclair are officially an item." Hashtag part 7. After the semester began, Ava blocked every guy who had ever tried to hit on her. She had never accepted gifts from any of them, so no one could say a bad word about her. Senior year had no required classes, so I became her shadow. I brought her breakfast, sat with her through her lectures, and studied beside her in the library. The looks she gave me were filled with pure love. 2 weeks into the semester, Ava suggested we get an off-campus place for a night. It was the exact night she had been poisoned in my past life. Sure enough, my phone rang. It was Chloe. "Brother, you have to help me, please." She sobbed into the phone. "What's wrong, Chloe?" I asked, putting the phone on speaker, so Ava, who was sketching car designs at her desk, could hear. Chloe didn't have Ava's number and had no choice but to call me. "I tried to poison Ava today," she blurted out. I think she knew something was up. She didn't eat the cake. She took it with her. She said she was taking it for a toxicology test. "Are you with her right now?" I almost laughed. One idiot. She confessed everything. Arthur had spoiled her rotten. I didn't answer. I just handed the phone to Ava and nodded. "We're together," Ava said, her voice dripping with ice. "And this call is being recorded. Ava, for my sake, can we handle this privately?" I said, giving her a look. "She tried to poison me, Ethan, and you want to handle it privately? You must be dreaming." Ava shot back, playing her part perfectly. "Ava, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong." Chloe wailed. "I have $300,000 in my account. It's all yours. Just please don't turn me in." "Please, Ava," I pleaded, knocking on the desk 3 times to mimic the sound of kneeling. "I'm begging you. Please forgive my sister." I could see Ava struggling to keep from smiling. "Fine. Chloe, transfer the money to Ethan's account. Now." "What?" Chloe was confused. "Why not yours? Don't ask questions. Just do it," Ava snapped. Okay. Chloe hung up, and a minute later, a notification for a $300,000 transfer popped up on my phone. "Well," I said, wrapping my arms around Ava's waist. "Now we're even richer." "Why did you do that?" Ava asked, looking up at me. "They're your family." "Because I know their secrets," I told her, deciding to trust her completely. "And they were planning to destroy me." Ava's brow furrowed, but she didn't say anything more. After that night, we moved out of our respective dorms and rented a small 1-bedroom apartment on campus, starting our own co-living arrangement. I kept paying the rent on her old studio, just in case. Ava was a sophomore, buried in a demanding course load. She was double majoring in automotive engineering and business administration, and her schedule was packed. I sat with her through every class. She was a top student in engineering, always in the top 20, and she took her business classes just as seriously, a stark contrast to the students who were just there for the diploma. I made sure she ate on time every day. In our last life, she had suffered from terrible stomach problems because she always forgot to eat. #### part 8. 2 months passed peacefully. Everyone on campus talked about what a perfect couple we were, inseparable. Whenever another girl tried to flirt with me, Ava would kiss me on the lips, a clear declaration of ownership. After Arthur's 40th phone call, I finally agreed to take over the company, but only after I graduated. I told him I didn't want any distractions. He was thrilled and immediately transferred another $200,000 to my account, telling me to ask if I ever needed more. I hung up with a cold smile. Checking the time, I realized I was supposed to meet Ava at the main dining hall. When I walked in, I saw a guy sitting across from her. His back was to me, but he looked familiar. Ava was clearly annoyed, her expression stormy. I started walking over just as the guy said something that made her furious. She picked up her glass of water and threw the entire contents in his face. As she stood up, she saw me, and a flash of surprise crossed her face. When I got closer, I saw who the guy was and felt an urge to punch him. It was Caleb. "Brother," he sneered, wiping his face. "So this is your girlfriend?" What a shrew. The Thorne family would never let trash like this. He didn't finish his sentence. I slapped him hard across the face. "Get lost," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "And stay away from my wife." Caleb stared at me, shocked, but faced with my cold fury, he scrambled away. I knew Arthur had told him not to pick fights with me for now. He had to swallow his anger. Ava seemed very pleased with me, calling her my wife. A small smile played on her lips. "Don't be angry, Ava," I said, pulling her close. "My brother's an idiot. His brain misfires sometimes." She looked up at me from my embrace, her eyes wide and innocent. "He told me that being with you would only land me in trouble, and that I should be with him instead. I lost my temper." "I know, Ava," I said, kissing her forehead. "I'll get you lunch. You just sit here." I knew exactly what she liked to eat. Her favorites never changed. After lunch, we went to the library. I wasn't just keeping her company. I was working. I meticulously documented every major market shift and business opportunity from my past life, refining my plans with the knowledge from my finance degree. Just then, a friend request popped up on my iMessage. The name made me freeze. Julian Sinclair. the eldest son of the Sinclair family, the primary heir. I remembered him from my past life. The year after I was imprisoned, the same year Ava's father died in the plane crash. Julian Sinclair and his wife were found dead in their home from carbon monoxide poisoning. The suicide note, written in his wife's hand, claimed he was having an affair, and if she couldn't have him, no one could. #### Part 9. With Julian gone, Ava, as the second in line, was able to take over the company. Within a year of her taking charge, all her other half-siblings had died in a series of convenient accidents. In my last life, I suspected it was her doing. The thought had scared me a little, but she had never been anything but loving and devoted to me. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and she'd be sleeping soundly in my arms. Her assistant, Sarah, had once told me that Ava was a light sleeper, that the slightest noise would wake her. A person like that only lets their guard down when they feel completely safe. I pushed the thought away. I looked at the beautiful woman beside me, furiously scribbling calculations. Whatever Ava did, I would support her. Her love for me was the one thing in this world I was sure of. "What is it?" she asked, sensing my gaze. She put down her pen and looked up at me. "Can't I just look at my own girlfriend?" I teased, gently pinching her cheek. "Stop it," she said, her cheeks turning pink. "Let me finish this, and then we can go on a date." "Okay." I nodded and accepted Julian's friend request. He didn't say anything for a long time, and I went back to my work, almost forgetting about him. Then a message came through. "Are you dating Ava Sinclair?" "Who's this? And what's it to you?" I typed back, annoyed. "I'm her brother. Are you with my sister?" "Oh, sorry. Brother-in-law. Yeah, we're together. Don't worry, I'll take good care of her. I won't let anything happen to her." I played dumb, pretending I didn't know about their family dynamics. "I know you're the Thorn heir, but I'm warning you, stay away from her. She's not the harmless girl she pretends to be. She's ruthless, manipulative, and dangerous. She's more than you can handle." "That's a harsh thing to say about your own sister, man. She seems great to me. Anyway, gotta go, Ava's calling me. Let's grab dinner sometime." I cut the conversation short. Before dinner, Ava showed me the design she'd been working on. "What do you think? I designed this myself. When I graduate, I'm going to apply for a job at Ethelred. If I go in with a solid design portfolio, I can negotiate a better salary." I didn't know much about automotive engineering, but her blueprints were so detailed and clearly labeled that even a layman could understand the basics. "You're amazing, Ava," I said, kissing her cheek. "You're going to do great things." I knew she would. In our last life, after she took over, the value of Sinclair Motors had skyrocketed. ### Part 10. Our relationship grew closer. Whenever Ava had trouble with her business classes, she'd ask me for help. For me, a closet genius who had intentionally scored just enough to pass for years, it was child's play. Time flew by. December 22nd, the winter solstice. It was a Saturday, and it was Ava's 20th birthday. I was planning to go out and buy her a gift, but she insisted I come with her somewhere. She said she had a surprise for me. I was excited. I offered to drive, but she refused. After I got in the passenger seat, she handed me a blindfold. "Put this on. You can't see until we get there." For anyone else, I would have said no, but this was Ava. I don't know how long we drove. When she finally took off the blindfold, she pointed to the building beside us. My jaw dropped. "City Hall. Let's get married," she said, her eyes shining. She was holding both of our IDs. I was stunned. This was happening so fast. In my last life, we didn't get married until she was 29. I knew things would be sooner this time, but I never imagined 9 years sooner. "Ethan, you don't want to." A shadow of disappointment crossed her face. "It's okay. I can wait." "I do," I said, taking her hand. "Ava, I do. As long as you don't regret it." "I've been in love with you for 5 years, she said, wrapping her arms around my neck. "How could I ever regret it?" And just like that, on her 20th birthday, Ava Sinclair and I got married. Staring at the 2 familiar marriage certificates, I felt like I was in a dream. As soon as we had them, Ava pulled me into a hug, snapped a picture, and posted it to her Instagram, tagging me. I hesitated for a second, then did the same, tagging her back. I knew this would cause problems. Sure enough, Arthur's call came almost instantly. "Ethan, do you have any idea who you just married?" he roared. "Of course I do," I said, watching Ava in the living room, smiling foolishly at our marriage certificates. She's the heiress to Sinclair Motors, second in line to the throne. You know that, and you still married her? You're letting a pretty face cloud your judgment. I want you to divorce her now. Never. I love Ava. I will never divorce her. I'm doing this for your own good, son. Listen to me. Ava Sinclair is not the sweet girl she appears to be. She's a shark. She's ruthless. If you don't leave her, she will destroy you. On campus, Ava had a pristine reputation. But in their world, the world of the elite, her label was predator. If that day comes, I said, meaning every word, then I'll have deserved it. Thinking of our past life, there was no way I would ever leave her to face the monsters in her family alone. You're being irrational, he yelled and hung up. I knew our marriage had just thrown a massive wrench in his plans. But something was off. In my past life, at this point, Ava hadn't been involved in Sinclair Motors at all. This time, it seemed everything was happening ahead of schedule. Hashtag part 11. After final exams, winter break started. Ava and I went our separate ways, back to our families. I wanted to stay with her, but I knew she had things to take care of, things she didn't want me involved in yet. Otherwise, she would have asked me to come with her. I didn't push. She would tell me when she was ready. Before she left, I gave her the 9 hard drives. Everything you need is on these, I told her. She frowned slightly, but took them without a word. After a quick kiss, she drove off in the Argent. It was time to accelerate my revenge against the Thorns. I couldn't risk Arthur doing something desperate. I had planned to do it myself, but now I had to rely on the power of Sinclair Motors. This would also reveal that I knew who she really was. I didn't go back to the Thorn estate. I stayed at Ava's old studio apartment. Arthur called me dozens of times, begging me to come home. I refused, telling him that this year I was spending the holidays with my wife's family. Ava's efficiency was terrifying. A month later, the Thorn Corporation imploded in a storm of scandal. Arthur, Caleb, Chloe, and their mother, Rebecca, everyone directly involved, was arrested. Sinclair Motors absorbed all their assets. My name was never even mentioned. The Thorns had controlled the production of key automotive components, including core technologies that Sinclair had never mastered. It was my wedding gift to Ava. Though they hadn't been sentenced yet, Caleb and Chloe were expelled from the university. In the end, Arthur and Caleb were found guilty of criminal negligence leading to multiple deaths and were sentenced to life in prison without parole. Rebecca, as an accessory, received a life sentence. Chloe's involvement was minimal. She got 3 years of probation. Ava's legal team had dug up every piece of dirt imaginable. Otherwise, they would have gotten off with a sentence like mine, 10 years tops. Seeing the news, I felt a wave of elation. The score was settled. The Thorn family was dust. The day before Christmas Eve, Ava came to get me herself. "When did you find out who I was?" she asked as we drove. Her tone wasn't warm and teasing anymore. It was cold. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't exactly tell her about my past life. "It's okay," she said, her voice softening when she saw my distress. "Tell me when you're ready." "Ava, where are we going?" "Home. Soon." We arrived at a familiar, sprawling mansion. We walked into a house I knew well. The decor was exactly as it had been in my past life. That night, we opened a bottle of red wine, and the last wall between us finally came down. Later, in her room, Ava was like a wolf, pinning me to the bed. Before she did, she drew the heavy curtains, plunging the room into darkness. After a moment, my eyes adjusted enough to see her silhouette. "I need you to love me, Ethan Thorn," she whispered, her voice a low growl of possession. "You can only love me, no one else. Your eyes, your heart, they belong to me and me alone." This, I realized, was her true, unguarded self. "I love you, Ava," I said, unafraid. I looked into her stunning eyes, my voice steady. "I only love you. In my last life, and in this one." Afterward, she whispered a gentle good night and curled up in my arms, falling into a deep sleep. Watching her peaceful face, I leaned down and kissed her forehead. She was exactly the same. A little cat, completely defenseless, trusting me with her whole world. When I opened my eyes again, the space beside me was cold. Ava was gone. The curtains were drawn, and on the nightstand was a half-full glass of water and an open bottle of Ambien. I understood. There was no rebirth. It was all a dream, a fantasy constructed by my dying brain. For some reason, I hadn't died. Ava was gone. The woman who loved me, who cherished me, was dead. The last time I saw her, I was yelling at her. No! I screamed, clutching my head, tears burning my eyes. Ava, I'm sorry. I love you, I love you. If it was a dream, why did you let me wake up? At least in the dream, I could be with you. Ava, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please come back. I'll never hurt you again. I'll love you right. I promise. Suddenly, the bedroom door swung open. The soft bedside lamp clicked on. Ava was standing in the doorway, watching me. We stared at each other for a long moment before she came and sat on the edge of the bed. Ava, is it really you? I'm not dreaming. I lunged forward and wrapped my arms around her, clinging to her as if she might fade away. This time, she pushed me away. Her eyes were fixed on mine, her face blank, waiting for an explanation. Ava, you were reborn too. I ventured. She nodded slowly, still silent. I'm so sorry, Ava, I said, getting my emotions under control. Everything I just said, it's all true. I never should have fought with you. You were the only one who ever stood by me when the whole world turned its back. Ava, I will love you, and I will never make you sad again. Please believe me. Tears finally welled in her eyes and streamed down her face. She threw her arms around me. After I died, she sobbed, my soul was trapped there with my body. When I saw you read my autopsy report and cough up blood, I wanted so badly to hold you, to tell you I was still there. But my hand just passed right through you. I watched by your bedside all night as your hair turned from black to silver, strand by strand. My heart was breaking. It's over now, Ava, I murmured, stroking her back. This time, we'll grow old together. Ethan, when I saw that I'd been pregnant, I felt a pain so deep it tore my soul apart. Then I watched you take the pills. I tried to stop you, to knock the glass from your hand, but I couldn't touch you. I watched you die right in front of me. Then there was a white light, and I was back 15 years old in high school on the day you gave that speech from the stage. She looked up at me, her beautiful eyes swimming with tears. I knew I had a second chance. I started consolidating my mother's loyalists immediately. I knew if I waited until I was 22 like last time, it might be too late. Julian would be too powerful. I saw you a few times, but you were just like your old self, and I felt so lost. But then you called me, and I knew. You came back, too. We held each other tightly, as if in that embrace, we held our entire world. Hashtag part 15. Ava, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I didn't know how. I know. Me too, she nodded. If I hadn't lived it myself, I wouldn't have believed it either. With everything out in the open, there were no more secrets. I showed her the message history with her brother. He wasn't wrong, you know, she said, putting my phone down. I am ruthless. I am manipulative. I don't really have a bottom line. She wasn't trying to hide her darker side from me. I know, Ava, I said, gently wiping a tear from her cheek, completely unfazed. In this world, in a place that eats people alive, the only way to survive is to be more vicious than your enemies. Remember that design I was working on this semester? That was my design for my past life. I was about 80% done with it when I had my accident. This time, I'm going to finish it, and I've already made upgrades. I was going to call it the Seraphina and release it on our 8th anniversary. But since we've both died once, let's call it the Tartarus. Tartarus, the deepest abyss. A fitting name for two people who had clawed their way back from hell. If I had been driving that car in my past life, she said with a sigh, I probably wouldn't have died. Ava, let's just look forward from now on, okay? I said, cupping her face in my hands. For the rest of our lives, I'll be holding your hand. The next day, Ava took me to a dungeon hidden in the basement of the mansion. A woman was chained to the wall, her body covered in wounds. I recognized her. It was Ava's personal assistant, Sarah Vance. Ava what? She's the one who disabled the Umbra's emergency override system. Ava whispered in my ear. It all made sense. The Umbra's safety systems were top of the line. Sarah must have deactivated them, which is why the crash was fatal. In the week between her death and my suicide, Ava's spirit had watched everyone around her and learned the truth. The crash was orchestrated by Sarah and Julian's eldest son, Leo Sinclair. Ava, I don't know how you found out, but I'll tell you this. You're going to hell, Sarah spat, her eyes burning with hatred. Why did you betray me? And Sarah? Ava asked. She had learned after her death that Sarah was her mother's younger sister, her own aunt. "I have nothing to say to you," Sarah sneered. A trickle of black fluid ran from the corner of her mouth. She had taken poison. Enraged, Ava summoned the head butler, only to find him passed out, drugged. "I think I know who did this," Ava said, her voice colder than a glacier. "Julian." The name appeared in my mind instantly. He had the most to gain from Ava's death. Ava immediately launched a massive internal purge, rooting out every spy and traitor in her circle. We later learned that Sarah wasn't her real aunt. Her mother's sister had been killed years ago, and Sarah, a look-alike, was an agent Julian had planted by her side. As for why she'd waited so long to act in our past life, Ava guessed that with Julian already dead, Sarah had waited for his son, Leo, to come of age before making her move. On the day Ava died, Leo had just turned 20, old enough to take over the company. A cold smile touched Ava's lips. This time, there would be no mercy, no sentiment for family ties. She would eliminate them, root and stem. In her last life, she had spared her half-siblings' children, letting them live in luxury as long as they stayed away from the company. It was a mistake that had cost her her life. All of her siblings, aside from Julian, were the children of her father's mistresses. For reasons she never understood, her father had chosen Julian, the son of an outsider, as his primary heir. "By the way," Ava said, looking at me, "I've put all of the old Thorn assets under your name. They're yours to run now." "Okay," I nodded. Whatever Ava wanted to do, my job was to trust her unconditionally. The rest of the break passed without incident. When we returned to school, no one knew Ava's true identity, likely thanks to her father pulling some strings. My life became a whirlwind of classes with Ava and managing the new Thorn portfolio. My senior thesis became a case study on turning the company around. I still made time to play basketball with my friends. Staring at a screen all day would drive anyone insane. Ava, on the other hand, was a social island. Besides me and her professors, she had no contacts among the students, not even her old roommates. The next 2 years of college were quiet. We rarely left campus, living in our little apartment, except for holidays. After her junior year, Ava officially took over the majority of operations at Sinclair Motors. She delegated some of it to me, but she kept the core business clutched tightly in her hands. 2 years later, Ava had secretly eliminated Julian and his entire family. Her other 4 half-siblings and their families were all gone within a year, dead from untraceable causes. It was pure Ava, swift, brutal, and without a trace of remorse. With the lessons from her past life, she was even more merciless this time, leaving no loose ends. The Sinclair family's internal wars were like a curse. A curse her own father had started 2 decades earlier when he seized control of the company. And in that, I finally understood her father's plan. He had never wanted Ava to be bound by sentiment. Julian may have been the primary heir on paper, but Ava, his only child with his legitimate wife, was the one he had truly been grooming for power. Unlike in our past life, this time her father didn't die in a plane crash. Ava found him a secluded estate where he could live out his days in peace. She still called him for advice on occasion. He always pretended to be annoyed, but he would meticulously walk her through every problem. That same year, Ava got pregnant. Without the car crash from her past, her body was healthy. We had stopped using protection less than 3 months earlier. We cherished this child, terrified something might happen. Ava handed over control of the company to me. With my future knowledge and my own skills, Sinclair Motors continued to thrive. The following spring, Ava gave birth to twin boys. One took my last name, the other took hers. Ava's design, the Ethelred Tartarus, was never released to the public. The production line made only 2, their internal mechanics a closely guarded secret. Only she and I would ever drive them. In its place, the newest flagship model released was another of her designs, the Ethelred Umbra. The moment pre-orders opened, it sold out. It became the ultimate status symbol for the heirs of the world's elite. The original Umbra, it turned out, was her design too. Alongside it, we launched 3 mid-range and 5 economy models, ensuring there was an Ethelred for every class of driver. Just like in our last life, Sinclair Motors became the largest automaker on the planet. And through it all, Ava and I were as in love as ever. The year she turned 29, the year we got married in her last life, she gave birth to a daughter. I named her Aviana. Ava knew what the name meant, and she looked at me with a smile that held the whole world. Ava, I said, holding my wife and daughter, I'll spend the rest of my life with you. 2 years later, her father passed away from illness. Ava buried him beside her mother. When Ava was 47, our sons were grown. She began transitioning control of the company to them. They had grown up together, and we had raised them without the toxic paranoia of the Sinclair past. For the first time in its history, the transfer of power at Sinclair Motors was peaceful, and Ava and I, just like her father before us, retired to a quiet life, ready to simply be old together.